It is April the 21st. As usual, the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We shall persevere until we succeed. It's one of the mantras of Og Mandino. Today, we're going to challenge a little bit, and we're going to chat about basically 3 points, but we'd like to challenge everybody a little bit as well to introspect and to think about things. The subjects we're going to talk about are actually, fairly simple. They're the greatest enemies of success. And what are those enemies of success? We'll talk about those in a second. The points are learned helplessness is the second one. And the third one is the path of least resistance. And the first one is just that we should pay up front what we're going to be doing for the long term. Okay, I'm always a little slow at the beginning, but here we go. So we get into the habits of least resistance, for example, of living in mediocrity, because that's the more comfortable zone that we live in. We discuss these things with these books that we read, the mindset books that we encourage everybody to read and to grow from. So you pay the price of success in full up front, and you pay the price for mediocrity the rest of your life. I think that is huge, where we don't really think about that unless we want to be successful. We've got to really, really work hard at the beginning and understand that we're setting the cornerstones of our building, the foundation of our building. And that is a hard work at the beginning, because the rest of the building will grow on top of that. But it's how we do that, how we view the size of the building that we want to see how we want the building, how strong we want the building. So I want to start off by telling a little story. When we talk about the success that we try and be and do as defining ourselves from being a member of the herd. When I was a kid, young, and I was a rookie, I went to the Philippines as a trainee. And they sent me there. They paid me the same salary as anybody else, all the other kids, the rookie guys. I was in the tobacco business at the time. And I decided that I was going to be exceptional. I decided I was going to be above normal, above average. And I decided that even if I was in the Philippines and the company headquarters was in Richmond, Virginia, I would make a name for myself and I would stand out from the crowd. I would make a really exceptional effort from the beginning to be recognized and to go forward in this corporation that I was with. It was one of the largest tobacco companies in the world. So for about 7 or 8 months, I wanted to prove my difference, and I worked 8 hours, 2 shifts in a factory. Nobody asked me to do it. In a dusty, horrible, hot, awful factory, noisy, 16 hours a day. Nobody asked me to do it. All my other friends and other rookies were all out there, drinking and playing golf and having a good time and just enjoying life. And I was in there really slogging. And nobody said a word until about 7 or 8 months later, the company called me to Richmond. And they said, "Who are you? Why do you do this?" I said, "I just want to show you I'm different, that I'm really, really good, and that I stand out." And they said, "Well, you did. We didn't say anything. We just wanted to see how long this was going to last." From there, I was promoted to be the number 2 person in in a company of 600 people in Thailand. But the moral of this that I'm trying to say is that if we really, really understand what we want, and that we all can be exceptional in our own businesses now, what we have in this business, but that we can really do something or do things that will stand out and will make a difference in the long run. Those 8 months of really slogging it out there, horrible, 8 months of it, were the cornerstones of the company looking at me and talking about me from then on, that I was an exceptional guy, etc., blah, blah. It's not about me, it's about the facts. That's what I'm trying to get at. So that's what I just wanted to start with. We all have in ourselves an innate possibility to be exceptional, to do something that is above the normal, to do something that is really great. We all have it. We've just got to understand what it is and what we want.
Yeah. You started off with the quote, you pay the price for success in full and upfront, and you pay the price for mediocrity for the rest of your life. And there's another great quote by Art Jonik. It's amazing how people think 4 years is a long time to succeed in a business, but they think it's all right to stay broke at a job for 40 years, right? And we all have the opportunity to break outside of that, break outside of those chains if we decide to, and we all have it in us. It's just making the decision that that's what we want. Anytime I encounter an entrepreneur or somebody who's been successful that I admire, they talk about the sacrifices that they've made for their success, right? This isn't something new. We talk about this all the time, and it's probably my favorite topic is, to get what you want, you need to sacrifice something, long hours, focus, dedication, learning, educating, failures. And all these people say that failures are their best friends. They learn a lot from their failures. So, that's something that a lot of us don't really wrap our arms around and embrace. I call it the joy of sacrifice, because I know that if I sacrifice things, as Lawrence said, he had buddies that were out drinking and he was slogging in the factory, and that's what led to his success. There was a sacrifice that he was willing to make to outshine everybody else, to be noticed, and to see the success that he wanted to see within the company. So, going back to the three timeless enemies of success, the first one is the comfort zone. Getting comfortable wherever you are and not seeking to challenge yourself. Are you challenging yourself to learn more? Are you challenging yourself to do more? Are you challenging yourself to get outside of your comfort zone? Upskilling yourself is super important. You need to keep learning and refining your skills. You need to find new ways to do things better, more efficiently, ways to make your business better, right? And these are all things that every one of us should be thinking about as entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs address the pain points in their business. They seek solutions and then find gaps in their business models. They adapt to the challenges and find innovative ways of doing business. And we're all doing that in this business because this business requires you to think outside the box. It requires you to get outside of your comfort zone. It requires you to be more efficient and find better ways of doing things. Just because something's been being done the same way for 20 years doesn't mean it's the best way. It's probably the worst way because you're not keeping up with the times. Times are changing very rapidly, and we need to, as entrepreneurs, keep on top of that.
And with this rapidly changing times, comes the second part of this also, which is learned helplessness. The mentality that I can't do it. It's an old self-fulfilled prophecy. The more you say it, the more you believe it. No, I can't do that. No, that's difficult to do. Well, if you don't try it, if you don't start, if you don't really get into it, you'll never learn how to do anything. I'm actually very guilty of having the excuses of being an unwilling learner of technology. For me, the technology came as like a hurricane. And at my age, it's an excuse, but here it is. I'm recognizing it. I'm saying, oh my God, I can't even understand this. I don't know how to do this. And it's that feeling of helplessness, and you think, oh my goodness, I just can't do it. Until you find something that's going to trigger something in your mind to say, don't be such a wuss. If a 7-year-old can do this, what the hell wrong with you? That is a motivation for me when I see a 10-year-old showing me how to do something that he's never even seen before. And I'm trying to struggle with trying to understand something that was born in my era. And technology for me was that fear of learning something new, of staying up with it. And it's that mentality of self-fulfilled prophecy. I can't do it. Well, it's not true. There's nothing we cannot do. And we learn by mistakes. And the more mistakes we make, as Dan just said, the better it is. We fail forward. That's the whole thing. Learn from the mistakes. When you fail, don't just throw up your arms and put up the white flag and say, I give up. Say, no, what did I learn from that? How can I get better at it? How can I really understand what this is? Why should I not learn to figure it out? So I just wanted to confess my own shortcomings on that part of it, which was something that really upset me when I was, and I still get flustered. This morning I couldn't turn my Zoom on to coordinate properly. It flusters me, but I got to get over it and learn. And this is what we all have to do. Whatever it is that we've got that's a little stone in our shoe, we've got to actually get rid of that stone.
Absolutely. Learned helplessness, self-fulfilling prophecy. Reedy put in the comments in the chat. I love it. What you think you become. That's a quote from Buddha. And that's something that I live by. If you think negatively, if you have that fixed mindset, that I can't do it mentality, you're not going to do it, right? Because you've already made up your mind.
I actually have a poster of that quote. I've had it since junior year of high school. I'm currently a senior in college, so I live by that every day. So
good for you.
It's if you think you're going to be a success, you will become one.
That's absolutely right. That's what we're talking about. We need to start changing from learned helplessness and that I can't do it mentality to that I can do it mentality. And our boys 9 and 12, they say can't every once in a while, and it drives me absolutely crazy because they can, and I know they can, and they know they can. It's just it's easier to say I can't than it is to say I can for a lot of people. But once you change from this helplessness attitude to looking for solutions, you look at challenges from a different perspective. And then that creativity and the thinking that comes from that fuels the path to other solutions. So, there's a lot of positives that come out of, negating that learned helplessness, that fixed mentality, that fixed mindset mentality. So once you find a solution, you can take strength from that. It doesn't matter how small it is. A little bit of a win, you can build on that. Oops.
So
go ahead, Lawrence.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was finished with my thought. Go ahead.
Didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just putting up a picture on the can you see it on the screen or not?
Yes.
Okay, so in our business, what we're talking about is the path of least resistance that people take. It's not the answer. It's a question of really slogging it out intentionally for a long-term success. So here we've got this little...
Excuse me, Lawrence. It's off to the right-hand side of the screen.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to share. I can't share mine. Go ahead.
There? Is it better there?
It's not centered.
You can't see the graph.
Well, you can see it on your small.
Oh,
Oh,
Double click on it.
hold on. I just lost it somewhere.
Sorry.
Lost it. Okay, hold on. Here it is. 1 second. Okay. Can you see that now?
No.
No?
Nope.
Okay, hold on. Let's do it this way. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah. You can?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, this is a visual of the average person who's going to get a JOB. So it's the second one down here, 40-year plan.
Can you make that bigger, Lawrence, on your screen?
I think I can. Thank you. This is
if you share the program and not the desktop, it'll select just that window.
Can you see it now anyway, just for the record?
Yeah, it's small though.
It's small.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what to do. Well, anyway, if you can just imagine it or see it, even if it's small. It's 40-year plan. We all study for 25 years, more or less. Then we've got 40 years of JOB, which is the other slide we have up there that we'll show you in a sec, probably. And then, so that you retire at, say, 65. And then you've got the rest of your life to live on what you've saved and what you've invested in and so on. But you work sell your tail off for 40 years in a JOB where you've never got any money and time. What we have is the choice of work, you study 25 years. And when I started the business, we'd have to work 15 years to be able to reach a position of independent financial time and financial independence and time independence. Well, today with technology, we can do it in 5 years and have all the green, which is the rest of our lives, to do what we want to do. And this is where the difference comes, where you make a very hard, concerted effort at the beginning to really, really achieve something for the long term. "25 years, study, 5, 8, 10 years of hard work in this business, and the rest of your time to do what you want, as opposed to 40 years of JOB.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a choice we all have to make, right? And it's up to us to decide if that's, if we want to, continue working till we're 80, 90 years old, or if we want to be able to enjoy life down the road. So the third item that we wanted to cover is the path of least resistance. There's a lot of us, we look for easy ways to achieve a result. And years ago, there was a wealthy man that said to me, he does not work hard, he works smart. So we've all heard that saying, work smarter, not harder, right? But the key word here is work. You still put in the hours, you just worked out different ways to grow your business, different ways to get the job done and seek the result that you wanted. Just because, as I mentioned before, just because you've been doing something for 20 years doesn't mean that's the best way to do it. And then it's probably not. So, if you've done something a certain way for many years, that should really be a call to reassess and investigate if it's still the best way to do it. Technology in the business world move fast. New opportunities arise every day. And they're closing every day, right? And so we need to really figure out what's working best at the time. Just like we had to pivot during COVID and start doing a lot of what we were doing virtually, rather than in person. And that in that way, we even though that was a lot more difficult for a lot of us because we had to learn Zoom, we had to learn how to work the technology and everything else. In the long term, that worked out. And sometimes there's going to be short-term pain, but you don't want long-term pain, right? Short pain is good to endure if you can avoid long pain. So I think it's important to differentiate those two things. And, I just had an instance this week. I bought a new computer last week because mine wasn't working efficiently. It was slow. It was, it's taking me more time to get things done waiting for Windows to open. But even though I knew that, and I had another computer sitting here in my office to get set up, I knew that I was going to get way behind on work, trying to switch all this stuff over, migrate from all my stuff from one to the other. I was, freaking out that I was going to lose things, but that short-term pain is going to save me a lot of time, energy, and efficiency in the long term. And I finally got it set up yesterday, and everything's, working wonderfully. And I had this fear, but there wasn't really anything to fear in the long term, right? And that short-term pain was worth enduring, knowing that things on my computer, I'm going to be able to get things done quicker, right, and more efficiently.
Well, think about, we talk about athletes. Imagine getting up at 3 a.m. to go for a 10-mile run, and then train, keep training from the beginning of 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning every day for years, and shooting baskets or whatever it is. But it's slog, hard work for 3, 4, 5 years. And then LeBron James, I just saw, makes $150 million this last year with the endorsements and everything else. So, we look at him and we say, my gosh, look how much money this guy's making. Yeah, but he put in a tremendous amount of work, becoming the best that there is. And this is the whole point. We should have unrelenting focus on what we're doing for 5 years. Unrelenting focus, and become excellent at what we do, and keep tweaking, to become better and better at what we do, because everything keeps changing too. We've got new products, we've got new technology, new science, new everything. We've got to keep ahead of everything. That's what differentiates our company from other companies. That's what makes us proud to be in this company doing what we're doing. Among the 100 most trustworthy mid-cap companies in the US, for me, that makes me 10 feet tall. I've got to then respond to that by being excellent, to be able to measure up to what the company is and what it does and what it has. 500 million now coming in AI and DNA, personalized health solutions, according to DNA. Wow. We're looking at some really major stuff, exciting, and we've got to stay ahead of everything. So I just want to say, if I may, we're talking about exceptional, doing things above and beyond. Dan volunteers for, helping the poor people when I say poor people, less fortunate people, in volunteering to helping with them with the food banks and food, soup kitchens and stuff like that. What does everybody else do? I do help with healing counseling in the hospitals with the parents and the children after transplants, after they've had an organ transplant. I do some counseling in there. What do we do? What does everybody else do? Do we all have something that makes us feel, yay? We should find that. We should find that passion, because that's what drives us. That's what makes us go forward and makes us excellent.
Yeah, that's what feeds your soul. That's what feeds your happiness. And in those things, you can find a lot of joy. But as Lawrence was talking about the company and all of those things, the innovation, and as entrepreneurs, we need to be able to take risks. We're risk takers, right? And you need to find innovative ways to build your business. We have to be like foxes. We have to always be seeking to outwit the competition. And that's what Nu Skin's bringing to us, Pharmanex. We need to always be inquisitive. Remaining inquisitive is probably the best trait common to all entrepreneurs. We're always questioning things, right? We don't do something a certain way because somebody told us that's the way to do it. We think outside the box. We get outside of our comfort zone and we do things that we think are going to build our business, or we look to others who have been successful and then take some nuggets away from them, what they've done. But, you know, we're always taking risks. So, you know, each of us has unique skills and experiences. So I want everybody to think about your own skill sets. You know, what are your skill sets? What are you really good at? And then how can you enhance and improve what you already have? How can you increase your earning power? How can you make your lifestyle better? How can you build on your skills to build this business? So think about that over the weekend. Lawrence, we're getting close to the end here. Any final parting shots? I do have another call at 10 that I need to jump on.
If anybody's got any quick comment, we do have a hard stop in 2 minutes. Anybody got any comment? Anybody want to add anything? 2 minutes.
Hey, I'll say something. It was a great call today, and it reminds me of watching Elon Musk's rocket launch yesterday and seeing a post I followed Costa Rica very closely, and the Tico Times, a newspaper down there, said Elon Musk launches rocket, it explodes. You know, and the point of this was that rocket launch was one step in the program. They expected it to fail after its initial success of launching. All they were looking for was the success of leaving the pad, because it's a journey that we're on. And this call reminded me of that yesterday. It's a good note. Some people can choose to see the negative and others can choose to see the positive, but there are setbacks. This was not a setback. It's a step forward.
Good call.
Fail forward, right?
Forward.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Good job. Have a good
Good
weekend.
call, guys.
Blessings to everybody. Thank you.
Fantastic call. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Very good.